The headless side of Fortune is one that requires a lot of experience with the game to play well. At all times, you need to be very aware of where your head is, relevant to where your opponent is, and Fortune herself. It's going to be overwhelming playing headless for quite a while, and you'll feel like you're not making any progress. But stick with it, and you'll see how much creative freedom she can give you. You have 4 ways of taking off your head. The first of which is inputting quarter circle back and any punch for cat strike. It's safe on block, hit a vulnerable, staggers the opponent on grounded hits, but loses to grabs. Also, your opponent may have other ways to work around it as well, so be careful. The second way to take off your head is by inputting quarter circle back and any punch in the air for cat spike. The slam itself is an overhead. It's not invincible in any way, but you can use it in more situations compared to cat strike. The third option is to use cat strike at the end of a cat scratch fever super that connected. If you have OTG available near the corner, cat strike picks them up and leaves you +1. However, you can delay the cat strike so that this doesn't happen, leaving you much more plus. Careful when using this without OTG available, as in many cases, you can be punished for it. The last option I want to go over is inputting sneeze, DP input in any punch, at the end of Feral Edge super. Doing it this way lets you continue the combo and set up a sandwich situation. Harder, but meterless ways to take off your head in combos are TK routes, such as this crouch HP into cat spike, which lead into popular resets. More on that later. Another TK route you can use is crouch HP into heavy Elgato into a cat spike. Keep in mind that both of these routes benefit the most when you have OTG available. That's not to say that these are the only ways. You can use assist to help you take off your head in numerous ways, so experiment with other characters and their assist to see which ones benefit your headless play the best. So, your head's off. The next thing you need to focus on is getting it to where you want it to be. One of the new ways to do so is by holding your heavy punch button and holding either left or right to walk the head. You can also do it while crouching to avoid moving Fortune herself. Walking the head during combos is possible and encouraged. Releasing heavy punch while holding straight down won't make the head attack. The head has 4 moves you can tell it to do. Well, say it has 2 normals and 2 special moves. The normals cause the head to be on a cooldown for half a second. The first normal is headbutt, simply done by inputting heavy punch without a direction. It tracks where the opponent is before it advances. The second normal is zoom, done by inputting heavy punch while holding either left or right. The head will always pull the opponent in the direction it's coming from, regardless if the zoom was blocked or not, provided it wasn't an OTG hit of course. Now for its special moves, which will make the head go on a second long cooldown. Quarter circle back and heavy punch will give you numb, a tracking hit grab. Once it finishes a successful attack, the head will be sent off in the direction of where Fortune is. However, if the attack is happening too close to the corner, it will always fly off away from it. While the attack is happening, your opponent won't have a collision box, allowing you to pass through them. If numb connected, the attack will continue even if Fortune isn't hit stunned. The last special move is sneeze, done by inputting DP input and heavy punch. This also tracks the opponent's location before it attacks. The head becomes completely invincible until the apex of the sneeze. Once sneeze starts, there's no stopping it regardless of what's happening to Fortune. You can string either of the 2 normals into either of the 2 special moves, but doing this will cause the head to go into a 1.5-second cooldown. Also, while Fortune is in any type of stun, she can't give her head any commands. Out of the 4 head attacks, zoom is the only one that is stopped by Fortune simply being in block stun. Not only that, but interrupting the head's actions will still make it go into the appropriate amount of cooldown once Fortune is back to neutral. While holding heavy punch, none of your team's attacks can interact with Fortune's head, but hitting Fortune's head will cause it to go into its decap attack, a very active move that is devoid of any cooldowns. Any of your attacks can make the head use decap attack, whether that's your normals, special moves, or even your assists. So string some attacks together to move the head how you like. Normally, your head goes into cooldowns from using its attacks, but by using decap attack, you remove that cooldown while staying on the offensive. Any of your opponent's attacks makes your head go into 20 frames of cooldown after the normal amount of hit stun is applied to it. On top of that, you take around 30% of the damage dealt to it back to you. Be careful leaving your head unattended. Your opponents have a variety of ways to not only deal a lot of damage to it, but also sending it flying across the screen in order to avoid a sandwich situation. You also have your own ways to send the head full screen at them, Stand hard kick into air dash, jump hard kick is a good way. Stand hard kick into light fiber, followed by jump light kick, jump medium kick, places you at a decent angle to approach from. My personal favorite is stand hard kick into heavy fiber. It lets you approach with an active hitbox from decap attack while also blocking. Even if they try to dash under you to escape, you can press an air normal to hit the head in their direction. You don't have to worry if they decide to back up instead. Be patient and react to their answer against you. Using your assist is also a great way to move Fortune's head while advancing. This is a near endless pool of options at your disposal. Experiment to see which ones you like the best. Maybe having your head off is not always the best thing to do. Your opponent can deal serious damage to Fortune if you make a mistake. It's okay to use quarter circle back and hold any punch button down to reattach your head. A more offensive way to do so is to use your level 3 to reattach it instead. Now for some pressure string examples. Crouch slide kick stand medium kick into headbutt is good, but what about crouch slide kick stand medium kick zoom into end fiber instead? Instant air dash into jump light kick jump medium punch is a string that you only have while headless. The jump medium punch will whiff otherwise, so make sure to use this really strong double overhead option when you're headless. You can make use of the block stun caused by the head to fake a cross up overhead to go low instead. Even something simple like crouch slide kick into decap attack is great, since it causes so much stun, leaving your opponent to take further assault. The same can be said about jump light kick jump medium punch into decap attack. So go wild with some strings to get the hang of using Fortune's head to extend and suffocate your opponent with pressure. Your offense isn't perfect. Always be aware of your opponent's options. Planning contingency plans is one of the most important parts to headless offense. And that's not just through normal gaps and pressure, since they can create gaps through push blocking. They can do more than just invincible moves and gaps. You have to be on the lookout for everything. When you see push blocks, you have around 25 frames to ask yourself questions and come up with answers. Am I still doing a move? Is the head on cooldown? If not, can I use it to save myself? Do they have a DP? Do they have an alpha counter option or meter to DC into something safe? Do you have the meter to stop them in case they do? These are questions you gotta start asking before the match even begins and have answers to them. You'll start getting used to those answers once you develop your muscle memory. Learn to react to push blocking correctly. It's going to take a lot of time, but you'll get the hang of it once you start filtering those answers. Some characters may not even have options against headless offense. Using your assist to cover your bases is always good. Let's talk about incoming situations. If her head's there, Fortune has one of the easier times escaping with sneeze and can quickly reverse the situation if your opponent isn't careful. You can buffer a command for the head before Fortune's even on screen, so you can also input throw text. You can use sneeze on their incoming as well, of course. Doesn't have to be sneeze either. Careful of opponents bullying the head to bait you to make a mistake. They can also use your head to continue their pressure. Maybe it's good just to keep the pressure up to cause chip damage or build meter for yourself. Safely continue your pressure while staying fast to crack your opponent's defenses, or to force them into a bad situation. While you have your head off, you can convert off of your ground throw meterlessly from anywhere on the screen, regardless of where the head is. Being able to walk the head is amazing for Fortune to be able to convert and sandwich the opponent in more situations than before. This side switch route by skipping McYay is really good. Stand hard kick, light fiber, followed by jump medium punch and medium el gato is universal even if the head's behind you. Really good to have in your pocket. The notations for these routes will be in the description. Don't think of these routes as the only combos you should be doing, but more so as something to understand when and where to use your head in order to extend your combos. Use headbutt instead of zoom if the positioning is better for it. They're not the most damaging routes, just combos to help you understand some things you can do. Remember, if it won't kill, reset instead. Here are some corner combos you can try out. And my personal favorite. Double snaps are important for this game. If you hold hard punch, the head won't get in your way. Or maybe you do want the head away, in which case just wait for their body to actually touch the floor. I say this because the head might hit them up there. Here are some mid-screen assist kills. Make sure to experiment how your head can help you for these. There's also this head-on one that works as headless as long as you hold hard punch. Remember that TK head spike route from earlier? Lots of resets could come from it. You could go for a cross-up, fake cross-up, cross-under, fake cross-under, cross-under cross-up. Many reset options get opened up. Of course, you can use the frame advantage that Headless provides for your resets, but you want to get tricky with your resets against better players. And as always, use your assist to get even trickier. Use all of these tools, learn to become flexible with your options, and soon, you'll have a lot of fun playing this character. I hope this was helpful to both new and old Fortune players alike. And again, she does take a lot of work to push her to her limits. But there's so much that opens up when you get there. But above all, make sure to have fun playing Skullgirls.